Going forward to the right of Horizons, we now find the once World of Motion, which is now Test Track. World of Motion was a part of the Transportation Pavilion in Epcot, which was an opening day attraction back in 1982 and would be sponsored by the company General Motors. The overall concept and design of the Transportation Pavilion started all the way back in 1975, when the concepts and the designs of Epcot were just early in development. The ride was designed by the legendary Imagineer Walt Kimball. This was one of the only attractions the animator would ever work on after the work that Disney has done for the Ford Motor Company and Pepsi-Cola and General Electric and the state of Illinois during the 1964 New York's World Fair. Imagineers were hugely familiar with what it took to make entertaining landmark attractions tailored to the needs of the well-heeled sponsors. In early meetings between Disney Imagineer Harper Golf, General Motors head of design Bill Mitch, they met at a school dedication in 1976, which ultimately led to the signing of the pavilion having a future sponsor.
Something for everybody. Today we've come to expect, even demand, variety in almost everything that affects the quality of our lives. The history of transportation here at the World of Motion shows how people throughout the ages have searched for and found better ways to get from here to there. As transportation technology improved, they found they wanted more than the freedom to travel. They wanted to travel in style in vehicles that reflected their personal taste in design, engineering power, safety, performance, and durability. In the World of Motion Trans Center, we go beyond the present and look at the future of transportation. It takes more than imagination to dream up a new engine or a new design to catch the eye. It takes the experience and insight of knowledgeable observers to foresee the vehicles, the technologies, and the transportation systems that will be appropriate for the future. General Motors, the world's largest automobile company, is proud of its continuing role in the history of transportation. We're proud of the imaginative ways we're extending the freedom of choice in personal transportation products to people on the go everywhere. We're listening to our customers to be sure we meet their needs while adding the excitement of the future. With more than 80 years of transportation experience, General Motors understands the world of motion, past, present, and future. And we're proud of that too. Now we invite you to join us in an exciting, informative, and entertaining world that offers something for everybody. A world of motion where you're completely free to make your own magic.
Being the first sponsor of the Park of Epcot, General Motors was signed in December of 1977, which featured a multi-year sponsorship for the pavilion. The move by GM was a move to counter their competitor and rivalry of Ford, who sponsored an attraction at the 1964 World's Fair. For World of Motion, the premise of the ride was to be a humorous look into the history of transportation, from ancient days of foot power through the time into the future. The pavilion's construction was pretty much part of Epcot's overall construction. It was pretty much being built right at the same time as Epcot Center itself. Construction of World of Motion, as well as the sculpting process for its battle on of animatronics, most requiring entirely new production versus pretty much reused of old molds and tooling, began in 1979. Some of the building dimensions of the attraction would be 55 in height and 320 in diameter, and for the ride system, they pretty much used the Omni Movers, which was heavily used in the Haunted Mansion. Most of the time, the attraction for the ride vehicles was pretty much in groups of 3 vehicles per platform. For the track layout, it was only 1,750 feet, and the length of the attraction was around 14 and a half minutes, which is pretty long, and the guest capacity per hour was about 3,240 guests per hour, which is insane back then. By May of 1982, the pavilion was nearing completion, and according to April 3rd, 1982, an issue of the Walt Disney World Cast newsletter, Eyes and Ears, and the sight of the immersed props like the railroad, cars, and the classic automobiles being hosted through the open sides of the building by crane and had been published in the Orlando Sentinel. The attraction would finally open to the public with a grand opening of Walt Disney World's second gate, Epcot Center. The official opening date was October 1st, 1982, but the attraction, out of nowhere, experienced operational problems such as the ride system starting and stopping repetitively throughout the day. World of Motion quickly became one of the most heavily visited and popular attractions in the entire theme park. And the attraction, glass-covered outer surfaces of the circular building consisted the whole view of its exterior, framing the entry alcove, which featured one central support pillar wrapped by the ride's first section of the track. Guests could clearly see that this was a slow-moving experience as they walked into the open space, with the blue Omnimover vehicles twisting clockwise from the ground floor up to the second floor and entering the contoured hole in the red wall. Once guests passed through the automatic glass doors below the track and entered the queue's proper holding area, they heard another 16-minute loop of music that took the song other directions with sound effects punctuating the transitions. Going into the second scene, it pretty much presented into the earliest means of over-water transportation. People traveling on projected boats, and a man fast asleep on the raft floating while the crocodile lunges at him. The next scene showed the first time animal power was introduced. The scene also shows a man holding a crystal ball on a flying carpet. Going into the next scene, it showed the invention of the wheel at Babylon. Riders would then pass a wheel factory into a part of the trade and commerce where it shows many useful ideas using wheels from different lands across the eras. The next scene was a chariot dealership where everything was included from the Trojan house was trying to be sold. Ships were introduced next as explorers run into a sea serpent. The next scene, which was the Age of Flight, featured Leonardo da Vinci and his many attempts to fly, and next to him was the clearly upset Mona Lisa. The following scene was a man looking over London and a hot air balloon. The next scenes were the evolution of steam, with the Mississippi Riverboat, with the near-ending stream of coach stages and such of the western expansion. The steam locomotive was the next evolution of steam travel, which in turn showed an authentic steam locomotive, an authentic railroad robbery, while a sheriff with a gleaming badge protects us on the way to our next scene. The scene shifted over to one of the most photographed and most memorable scenes, the world's first traffic jam. I know everybody doesn't like traffic jams, I don't. The chaos included such as an upset horse, a spilling ice truck, and kids screaming during the 1900s. Guests then traveled and opened the road scenes, which included a man crashed a bicycle, a family picnic, and an early 40s and 50s car, and a suspicious policeman. And in addition, a picture is taken with a flying ace and a woman. The wind and the airplanes made it hard to take a photo, and then scenes are shown with all the modern forms of cars that they had back then. The following areas were speed tunnels, paid homage to the tunnels and Magic Kingdom's If You Had Wings. The Omnimover traveled through these bullet-shaped tunnels, while images were played on the screens. Some included crop dusting, rafting, and traveling down a snowmobile trail. The tunnels then led to the final exhibit, Center Core, the amazing city of the future. Just before unloading, riders were asked to help shape tomorrow's mobility, with a similar effect as the hitchhiking ghosts featured in the Haunted Mansion at Magic Kingdom or at Disneyland in California. The riders in the Omnimovers appeared to be simulated cars of the future. Riders left the Omnimover vehicles and went to Trans Center, which was full of exhibits and showed about transportation and the things surrounding it. It took an Innovention style feel of it. The Trans Center portion of World of Motion was designed by award-winning experience Bob Rogers, which offered educational attractions which included prototype cars such as lean machines in the Dreamer's workshop and a show called The Water Engine. So why did World of Motion close? A lot of people were very much confused on why it was closing. One of the reasons was General Motors, after the second sponsorship of their deal with the pavilion, ended for World of Motion in 1992, and as a result, of course, GM started signing one-year contracts for the ride. However, a suggested idea to put the building and turning it into a new attraction. The new deal would take World of Motion, which would close it down and refurbish it to a new ride that was focused on only cars. Thus, World of Motion was permanently shut down to the public, while a new attraction called Test Track, scheduled to be open only 19 months after World of Motion's closure.
Compared to other activities, riding Test Track leads to a decidedly prominent increase in endorphin manufacture in the basal ganglia. In other words, Test Track rocks!
Brace yourself.
The ultimate automotive experience.
From Epcot at the Walt Disney World Resort near Orlando, Florida, Test Track, the greatest automobile adventure of the century. And your host, Richard Jenny.
Hello and welcome to Test Track. Test Track, Test Track, Test Track, Test. This is Test Track. Test Track is the ultimate automotive experience. This is where you'll see how General Motors, the world's largest automaker, tests its cars.
We're in the business of giving people new and exciting experiences. The GM Test Track is going to take you on a thrilling ride into the world of automobile testing.
First off, there's the hill climb, where you'll climb a 15-degree grade up 3 stories. And be given a New York City cab driver's license. Kidding. Next comes the suspension test. Then you'll experience panic stops with and without anti-lock brake technology. Then you move to the heat chamber where, hopefully, only the paint blisters. Yeah, right. Next is the barrier test. And then hang on for the speed test where you'll hit peak speed to a 50-degree bank turn. Whoa! No, I won't be doing the ride. I'm pretty sure that's in my contract. What do you mean you forgot? How do you forget? Why don't I forget to pay? You know, it's not a question of afraid. I'm not... Oh, boy! Oh, with the skidding! And here we go again. It's very... Ooh, that was smooth. Whew. Lucky thing I got my 12-hour deodorant. I put it on at, Cool Chamber. It's a good name for this. I'm guessing in here they would spray the car with some kind of an acid, corrosive liquid, something that would eat them. That couldn't be good. Oh, straight away, and now a right turn. Oh, ouch and up. Yes, nicely done.
No, the tunnel of love, if only I wasn't so alone.
Ho! Ho! Speed! Yes! I'm not acting. Whoa! I'm Richard Jenny, and I'll see you here at the Test Track!
This new ride would put guests in a test car against vehicle tests that were needed to deem the car safe for the open road. However, nothing ever goes planned, and the new ride opened significantly later the scheduled opening date. The closing of World of Motion forced the reopening of Horizon, another Disney attraction which we have talked about on the channel, and I'll put the link to the video here. One little Easter egg that I found on Test Track while riding it a couple years ago is when you're about to go on the high-speed race, or whatever you want to call it, on the ride, you can see the once previous logo of World of Motion. Honestly, to this day, I'm okay with what we got with Test Track, now sponsored by Chevrolet. It's very much a thrilling and exciting attraction, and every time I go to Epcot, it's one of the attractions that I pretty much go on every single time I go there. To me, Test Track is somewhat of a worthy successor because it put guests in high-speed scenarios and at the same time is somewhat educating on how cars work, with having guests experiencing it via tests. It would have been nice to experience World of Motion, but that day may never come. But who knows? We might see something in the future. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you liked this video, make sure to give us a like and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos to do with theme parks from around the world.